Okay, good evening and welcome. This is the East Long Meadow School Committee regularly scheduled meeting. It is November 16th. Call the meeting to order. It is 6 p.m. This meeting is being held remotely in accordance with the Governor of Massachusetts, March 12th, 2020. Order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law. We have the entire school committee in session this evening. And we have some minutes for approval. If someone would like to make a motion, please.
Move to approve the November 2nd, 2020 executive session meeting minutes.
Motion's been made by Bill.
Second.
Second by Sarah. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. That motion carries 5-0. Next up.
Move to approve the November 2nd, 2020 regular session meeting minutes.
Motion made by Bill.
Second.
Second by Antonella. Discussion. Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. That motion carries 5-0 as well. We have opportunity for visitors to address the committee. So this is the point in the evening. If you are in the audience and you'd like to speak, we'd ask that you please raise your hand. Mr. Mackey, are you set up for that?
I'm good to go. Yep.
Thank you, sir. So again, if those interested, please raise your hand and we will call you in one at a time. You want to start at the top, Mr. Mackey?
Okay.
Cindy, please. Thank you. Hi, Cindy.
Hi.
How are you tonight?
Everyone. Good. How are you? So my name is Cindy Knowles. I actually have 2 kids in the district. And I actually have my daughter Maya here who would like to address the committee, if that's okay. She's a 5th grader at Mountain View. So I'm going to put her on video.
Hi, Maya.
Hi. Go ahead, Maya.
Welcome to the meeting.
Hi, my name is Maya Knowles. I'm a 5th grader from Mountain View School, and I would like to tell you why we have to go back to school in January. Number 1, a lot of other kids have anxiety, like me. So being away from my friends and teachers just makes it worse. Number 2, being home so much started a lot of talking fights with my brother. Number 3, we have been wearing masks for so long, it feels like we were born with them. So I think we could do it in school. Number 4, my dad, he works at a school and they are hybrid and they seem to be doing great. I also have other family members in different school districts and they are going back to school. In conclusion, please let us go back to school.
Sounds good, Maya. Thank you so much for reading that.
Can I ask one additional question?
Yeah, go ahead, Cindy.
I was just wondering what type of metrics are going to be used to figure out whether we're going back to school in January.
Yeah, so as we always do, we're going to update everyone tonight, but basically the way we've stated in the past that we'll look at other districts and see how everyone is doing, and we're going to look at, the statistics in East Long Meadow specifically, and then we'll be able to make a decision at that point. Okay, thank you, Cindy, for joining tonight.
Absolutely.
Okay, we have Nathan next. Mr. Mackey?
Yep.
Thank you, sir.
Sorry. A little bit of a hang up there. He's on his way.
No rush. Yep, thank you. Hello, Nathan.
Just trying to unmute there. You there?
Good to see you. Yeah, how you doing?
Good, how are you?
Good, thanks.
So first off, I just wanted to thank the teachers and all the educators that are out there. I think you guys are doing the best that you can kind of under the circumstances that we have. I know it was something that you weren't able to train for or perfect and just kind of thrown into it. So I appreciate the efforts that the teachers and educators are doing. Same thing with the school committee. I know you guys are kind of thrown into this at the same time and being asked to, make decisions on stuff that you're not specifically trained for or had the opportunity to really get to know prior to this. And, a lot of decisions that you're making have potentially lifelong effects on all of our kids that go to the school. Obviously, I have 2 kids that are in the East Long Meadow schools. And, I know the weight of those decisions is very heavy. I'm a general manager of a large distribution center that's been an essential business since the beginning. And, you know, we've had to make some very difficult decisions that have lifelong effects on all of those that work for me, with me, and their families. And I guess I'm just concerned with, you know, when I try to make some of these decisions, I have to turn to the experts, the ones that are out there that can help make these decisions, and not one individual matrix is the right answer for any of this. And I've heard a lot of talk about, you know, percentage of spread and, you know, distance between individuals and kind of all of the stuff that we've heard online about COVID spread. But I haven't heard, along with Mia was talking about, Maya, about the anxiety and depression. And have we reached out to any of the local pediatric doctors to talk about the influx of anxiety and depression that these kids are having to possibly deal with at home? And I think that's, you know, very, very concerning. And again, we all know that there's risks to the virus. There's risks to every single thing that we do each and every day that's out there. And we have to calculate those individual risks. And you on the school committee and me in my general manager role, our decisions have to be based on not what's best for us as individuals or our children or even our family, but really what's best for the town or best for our entire location. So I just hope that, you know, we're turning to the professionals that are out there that know a heck of a lot more about it than we do. I certainly wasn't trained for any of this and have to rely on a lot of other people to be able to make these decisions. So with that, just making sure that we are contacting those maybe in the pediatric field or what, to find out what the increase in the anxiety and depressions are. Again, I don't have concerns really with the type of education. I do think the teachers and educators are doing the best they possibly can. My concern is what doesn't show up or what shows up when the Zoom, Google Meets are over. The things that don't show up in Plus portals, the struggles that these kids are having, you know, at home with that anxiety and depression. And oftentimes they're having them home alone and having to try to deal with that themselves. That's the concerning part. And I hope that we're addressing that as best we can.
Yeah. Okay, Nate, thank you for checking in tonight. Appreciate it. And certainly everyone on the screen agrees with your concerns and certainly a focus of all of ours. Okay, Mr. Mackey, we have one more. Henry, please. Are you there, Henry?
Can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
All right,
How are
thank
you
you.
doing? Yep.
I'm doing all right. Thank you very much. Thanks for taking my question. As we're pushing forward with the remote learning and possibly going back full time, the hybrid and so on and so forth, but not knowing that there's a lot of uncertainty about what we're going to do, which is understandable. But I have a question, especially I have a son who is taking a lot of AP classes. So with that being said, it's what are we doing, or if someone can enlighten me, because I don't know and I haven't heard, what are we doing to make sure that these children, young adults, are going to be ready to take this countrywide, statewide exam and have them prepared for these AP exams that they're going to be taken very, very shortly, because right now there's a lot of hands-on classes like AP biology, say. They're not going to get the full effect of being in class, as for instance. So what are we doing to ensure that these kids will be ready to go for these AP exams and make sure they're getting the right learning behind all this?
Yeah, I mean, the one thing I could say to that, Henry, is that certainly the curriculum is as robust as possible as it can be as in a remote setting. And as soon as we can get the kids back in person, we are in agreement that there are advantages to being in person, especially when you talk about manipulatives and you're specifically with the AP classes. So the staff is focused on it. It's a unique time, but certainly a focus.
I understand, but I'm saying, are we going to ensure that our kids are going to be able to successfully take these exams? Like, I'm just asking, like, what are we doing to make sure that these kids are going to be up to par to take these exams. Because as you and I know, and everyone else know, that taking these AP exams are very crucial, and this is a livelihood, the next step to a lot of these young adults.
Yeah. No, we all agree on that, and the staff are focused on it. Teachers are certainly focused on it and doing the best that they can. I'm not sure exactly what else I can tell you specifically on that.
Mr. Thompson, just quickly, all AP courses, their curriculum and syllabi are approved by the College Board. And so all of our AP teachers not only have done that, but as we prepare for remote learning, you know, they were also thinking about what Mr. Roberts' concern is how do we prepare if we're going a full year, and hopefully we're not going a full year of remote learning. But, you know, they're thinking about it. They also, whether they're in person, and I'm sure in remote, would be setting up study sessions as they get closer to the exam, but also much of their prep comes through looking at questions from previous AP exams. And so all of that will still be happening. But certainly, as Mr. Roberts said, you know, something like an AP biology where you would like to be in person doing the lab, that's something that hopefully we can look at as we start to make decisions for January and February.
Okay, Henry, any other comments you'd like to make?
No, thank you. I appreciate your time, though.
Thank you for your time. Just a reminder to folks, this isn't necessarily a question and answer section. I know we've been a little bit liberal here, but we have a few more hands raised. So I just want to remind folks that it's more of an opportunity to speak to the committee, address the committee with concerns and certainly questions that possibly we get back to later in today's meeting or another time. Mr. Mackey, I think Mr. Pendergrass was next. Yeah.
Well, no, I actually brought Dugan in.
That's fine. That's fine.
Hi,
Kate.
sorry to disappoint. Hi, and welcome. Hi again. I'm a fourth grader at Maple Shade, 9 Shaw Street is my address. I have a couple questions about the comparisons between hybrid and remote learning. There's been an assumption that hybrid is better than our remote model. And I'm curious to know if that's actually true. And I'm curious to know how the committee, I don't know how you figure that out, but that's an open question to me, that I think our remote model is really awesome. And I'm not clear that the hybrid is necessarily better. My questions are about contact hours, workload for teachers. You know, I'm a professor and I did the math. My hybrid model is going to be 3 times the workload. And then I'm worried about what happens to students who choose the remote option. So my second plea to you all is for students with health issues or who need to do remote for some other reason. I would love for it to duplicate the current remote model. And then finally, I'm worried about disruption as COVID cases. I have family in South Dakota. It is off the hook. And so the disruption, I know some kids might have anxiety at home. My kid has anxiety about thinking about going to school. So thank you for all of the hard work you're doing for our public school kids. I appreciate it.
Okay. Thank you, Kate. Appreciate it. Okay, Don. Yeah, now you can bring at it, please. Yeah, Ed, are you there?
It would take him a minute.
Okay.
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
All
Hi,
right,
Ed.
great. How is everybody tonight?
Doing well. How are you doing tonight?
Pretty good. So listen, I realize that you guys are doing the very best that you can, and there's a couple of questions that has just been on my mind. This is not about a Q&A session, just very deliberate around this. We're obviously the only town that has elected to go fully remote. And in hindsight, it seems like it was a pretty good call, even though it was done back in August. Has the committee done anything as an outreach formally with the outside towns to see how successful that their program actually is? So when we re-implement kids or reintegrate them back into in-person learning, we're getting a little bit more right. And I just want to clarify what I mean by more right. I'm the father of 5 children. 3 are in the public schools, kindergarten, 2nd grade, and 5th grade. And I can tell you that my wife and I are repeating kindergarten, and it's a great experience because I can actually see how much the teachers care. But at the same time, as we all know this, because we're spinning 3 plates on sticks at the same time, all of us, it's a bigger impact on our careers and the rest of the household. And I know that the school committee is not about just the household, but in general, is there a formal plan to try to figure out, because we hear all the rumors, are we going to go every other week, are we going to go 2 days on, 3 days off? I'm just curious, because there's just so much going on. And I just want to say this, I believe in the way you're doing it now. I think it makes more sense to be more tactical in light of the fact that this is a changing environment and hearing about drugs that are going to be available soon. But specifically, I'd love to know if we've done anything as a town to learn from our surrounding peer towns as to how it's working and how we could improve upon it once we pull the trigger with it.
Yeah, Ed, to answer a few of those things. First, we're not the only remote community. Several in the area, some of the larger cities are fully remote. I just want to clarify that. But second, one of the reasons why we went remote was specifically what you're talking about. And so we are able to see what is successful in other districts. And we certainly are in contact with other districts, see what's working, what's not working. We made several modifications based on things that are happening. So yeah, we're learning from others, and that's the advantage to us being where we are right now. So.
Okay, well, thanks a lot. I appreciate your time.
Okay, thank you for your time, Ed. Appreciate it. All right, Mr. Mackey, I don't see any other hands raised this evening.
No, nor do I.
Okay, thank you, sir, for your help.
Yep.
We're going to move along then. We have an update on our learning model, I believe, is next.
I think you have subcommittee communications.
Oh, yeah, thanks. I had my agenda upside down. Here we go. Anybody have anything they want to add to the meeting from the committee?
Actually, I have a couple things. First, the MASC had their 75th annual meeting, and for those of you out there, it's just school committees come together once a year, and they vote on some resolutions. These are nothing that's set in stone. It's just things that they find that they want to maybe have the government know a little bit about, understand about, and know that the school committees around the state are interested in these topics. So anyways, there was 10 separate resolutions. All of the resolutions did pass. A couple of them had some minor changes. The one that did not, and they chose just to table it, was resolution 10. So the committee does know what those resolutions are. So anyways, it was pretty good overall. It took about 3 hours, but they managed to get through it. And the only other thing I want to just make one little comment with one of the speakers earlier. They were concerned about the AP testing. Is it possible that perhaps we could have some sort of an update for the students who are taking APs? Because last year they drastically changed how the AP tests were taken, and it was horrible. I think some kids might have liked it and some might not, but possibly there should be an update from the AP that maybe we can forward to our parents, so at least they know. I'm assuming the tests are going to be altered again this year. I can't believe they do them the same way. Just if there's anything that maybe Mr. Page could do. I know I, as a parent, I have a student who's taking APUSH right now, and I think that we're a little concerned about that test come the spring. So if there could be some sort of communication just to put the parents' minds at ease, because a lot of these kids use this as a way to save money. And I understand where he was coming from. You can, take a semester off of school. That's a lot of money. So I respect his concerns on that. So.
Certainly, and actually, the high school guidance department sends out periodically the updates that they'll receive from the college board. We can make sure that not only are we pushing that out to students in the courses, but maybe get it into the portals for the parents as well.
Yeah, because there's been a couple things, but not a lot.
And Mr. Page, along with the entire leadership team, when we do the update, are going to be invited into the meeting. So.
Okay.
If I missed anything, you might be able to add to it.
All right. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Just for the committee's knowledge, Mr. Smith and myself met with a group of parents last week who were representing a larger group, just in terms of discussion about our model. We're going to discuss that tonight, but just so you all know, we did have that small meeting last Tuesday. And we do actually have a planned follow-up meeting with that group as well. So, anything else?
Yeah, real quick. Three Guys Catering, and one of our former committee members, Rich Ficero, is part of this Three Guys Catering business. Once a month cooks meals. They sell them for $5 a piece out of the Knights of Columbus over on Baldwin Street. They did it last Wednesday, and this goes to benefit both the High School Scholarship Foundation as well as the Knights of Columbus Scholarship Foundation. So fantastic meal for $5. You can't beat it. They do it once a month, and it's a great job by Three Guys Catering. Just wanted to give them a little prop.
Is there a website for that or something, Bill, so people get information on that? Do you know?
They usually post it on Facebook,
Okay.
but I'll reach out to Rich and see if there's any other information, and I'll get it back to everybody.
Great. Thank you. Okay. Moving on now. We will move forward to our update on ELPS learning model.
And I think Mrs. Brown is going to share her screen, and Mr. Mackey will invite in the rest of the leadership team, just so as we go along, if there are questions that are.
Can I, Gordon, could I ask one favor?
Sure.
Heather, could you just stop sharing long enough for me to get everybody in? And if the leadership team members would please raise your hands, that will jump you to the top of the list of 41 people. Save me a lot of time.
Good way to take attendance too, Mr. Mackey.
Looks like everybody's there.
I think everybody's here.
If I'm
Still have Dr. Allen, Mr.
Yeah.
Burdett, and Mrs. Dakin.
It's my thing is a little funky, that's all. I think that's it.
That's it. Thank you.
Okay. Hi, everybody. Thanks for coming tonight. You want to start us off, Gordon?
Sure. So a lot of it actually in this update will hit some of the questions that people have asked during the public comment. And as we move along, you're going to see just what an incredible team we have. I know people have seen that before, but I can't say enough about the individuals we just brought into the meeting, because these are incredibly unique times. And I think, as one gentleman said, so much of it and what we're doing is unknown, that that puts an additional challenge into sort of what we're doing on a daily basis. But what we wanted to do was walk you through in this update a little bit, sort of where we were and where we're going. Still, there are some things that need to be defined, but hopefully this gives at least all of you and people who are watching this meeting a better idea of sort of how these decisions are going to be made and where we end up. Ms. Brown, if you go to the next slide. There we go. So I think this has been mentioned a few times that August 6th, we had 2 meetings during that week, one on August 3rd, one on August 6th. That was when the school committee in East Long Meadow voted to begin the year. And just to clarify, because I think this gets misrepresented quite a bit, it was with the majority of students learning remotely, not every student learning remotely. So the school committee in that same meeting also committed to starting the year with students who may have significant and complex needs starting in person. And actually, our student support services had been working with families starting in July to make sure that not only were we outlining programs that were going to be available and supports that would be available, but also get an idea of who might be starting with us on September 16th. And then once that vote was taken, we, under the guidelines of the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education, finalized our plans, posted them to our website, and submitted the plans to the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education. And one of the things, and I think one of the speakers pointed this out this evening, and I don't know that the school committee necessarily understood the incredible benefit at the time, because I'm not sure I understood the benefit, but the fact that we were able to look at the unknown, more or less, and discuss with our local health officials and medical advisors. Someone had asked if we're working with pediatricians. Dr. Greer Clark has been working with the East Long Meadow Public Schools for the last few years, and certainly has been integral in our planning, not only as we started the year, but as we go forward. And so that's an excellent point to touch on. I think the gentleman asked about social and emotional and mental health in general. And that's something that we are really concerned about, and our building teams as well as our district team are working on that. But back to the key point here was, without having a ton of information, the committee, I think, did an incredible job by voting to approve this instructional model that focused then the entire district and all its resources on one model. And someone had asked or brought up the idea in the public comment, is hybrid better? We'll get to that a little later in the presentation. But I would say that the 5 weeks that we had to plan, and certainly the 5 weeks that allowed families to plan, were a huge benefit as we moved into this year. And so we use those weeks, the remaining weeks in August and the 2 weeks in September, to make sure that we provided professional development and had the software support to provide a remote, a robust remote program for our students. Ms. Brown, can you go to the next slide, please? One of the things, and I think I said it at the beginning of the year, but I want to give a shout out to the incredible IT department that we have under Mr. Quimby's direction. During the final 2 weeks, the staff of the IT department was able to distribute or exchange, in some cases, 784 devices, and they closed 579 help tickets. And certainly our students and our families are all hooked in with ELPS email addresses. So if they're having trouble, they can put in a IT help ticket, and IT sets up a time to resolve that issue. And in those final 2 weeks, they were incredible. So I just want to make sure that they're publicly recognized as often as I can. As we move closer to and then into the beginning of the school year, we worked with the IT department and Mr. Mackey, I should have him up here, to work with Spectrum and see if Spectrum would be able to help the customers in town that might be struggling with Wi-Fi. We did make some headway there, not as much success as we had originally hoped. And ultimately, in some cases, we provided hotspots where families just were without Wi-Fi. And so that's something that the district worked on within the first 2 weeks of school. We also, during that prep time, we had been purchasing personal protective equipment throughout the summer, as all districts were, because as we prepared our reopening plan, we had to prepare for the possibility of being full in person or in a hybrid, or as we decided, going predominantly remote. And even in a predominantly remote setting, we needed personal protective equipment, and we needed staff to be trained on how to use it and how to protect not only students and themselves in different environments. And we accomplished that as we moved through those final weeks. And so when we began the year, we had about 106 students attending in our schools, all 5 schools. So we had staff in all 5 schools and continue to have staff in all 5 schools. I believe the state represents it in the percentage. So it's about 95.7% were learning remotely, 4.3% were learning in person or hybrid. If you were to look at the state website, I have not been able to find that that spreadsheet that they had back in early October, but those are the statistics that they're they were capturing and still capture with all the attendance that we report. Moving to, thank you. One of the things that we certainly wanted to do to provide structure, but it also was in the guidance we received from the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education, was to provide and stay within the traditional school times and traditional school day. So within our remote learning plan, our schools are operating within their regular times, and they have synchronous learning throughout the entire day. The nice thing that we're seeing through the end of October was that we're averaging about 98.5% attendance for the district. And we hope to see that continue to be that high. That's excellent. And when you look at, say, the high school attendance, they're taking period attendance as well. So their students are very aware of individual classes that they may have missed if they're missing, but we're seeing that we're getting incredible attendance. One of the things, and this goes to the point that the gentleman brought up earlier in the public comment, that we're also doing is that each of our buildings and the district has multi-tiered support system teams, and that's really a big acronym, simply to say that we have professionals that are looking at student engagement and achievement and looking at other information regarding our students to make decisions around additional support that may be needed. First and foremost, you see in the parentheses there on the slide that we've gone already from 106 students to about 150 students in our buildings, because as these MTSS teams are working at the building level, they're looking at how are our students doing? What support systems might an individual student need? And then they try to build individual plans for students. And in some cases, that may mean bringing them in to full in-person learning. We're also at the district level, we have representatives from each of the buildings working with the Center for Leadership and Educational Equity to make sure that we're strengthening our capacity to do this work well. And I think the gentleman asked, are we reaching out to professionals? And so we are. This is something that we take very seriously, and it's something that we know we need to continue to build our capacity to do, because whether we're in fully remote instruction or whether we're in person instruction, the academic and the social emotional have to be integrated together. And this is a side that we as educators have not focused throughout our careers necessarily. It hasn't been something that has been part of the professional development throughout, say, the last 20 to 30 years. However, over the last 5 or 10 years, we're starting to see more and more. And ELPS is working with, as I said, the Center for Leadership and Educational Equity to continue to build our capacity, in addition to partnerships with River Valley Counseling and local partnerships with medical professionals. Mrs. Brown may be able to speak to not only the work we're doing with CLE, but I think someone had asked, are we doing any kind of outreach to our families and students? And we are. We just recently had a survey go out to our families, and Mrs. Brown may be able to add to some of this information so that people are aware of some of the things we're doing already and hope to continue to do more specifically as we go forward.
So we sent out a well-being survey to students in grades 3 through 12, and then had teachers at Meadowbrook do a survey based on their observations of kids for their students. So we're using this information as one piece of information to make sure all kids are doing okay, and we're reaching out to kids who aren't, and really looking at this holistically, like Mr. Smith said, around attendance and academics, and really making sure that all of the kids are getting what they need to be successful. And if not, we're working in these teams to determine what the barriers are and working with families to make sure kids are coming to school, are engaged, are academically successful, and feeling good emotionally.
So we look to not only continue to work on this, but we've invested in a software called Panorama And this is something that we've done some training. We've had some training on for the leadership team, but we're going to do some more training around this week. And this will bring more information quicker to the building teams around students. They won't have to look through a series of software packages to find, okay, what about attendance? What about grades? What about all of this now is feeding in, if I'm correct, Mrs. Brown, into Panorama. And so it's going to make this type of review and evaluation quicker so that we can highlight anyone who might need support and make sure that we're starting to build that plan faster than years past. Did I capture that correctly?
Perfectly.
Oh, thank you. So as we, moving on in terms of some of this background planning, something that's been, I think, a little bit more public and certainly been part of our updates. We had a number of planning groups that worked throughout the summer to look at how we reopen and what the 3 instructional plans were going to be. And that work really didn't stop as we started the school year. We still have groups that are meeting. Obviously, one is in session right now in this open meeting, even though they're listed at the end there because everything flows to the school committee. But the school committee continues not only to work on this in their public meetings, but as Mr. Thompson alluded to, we have a number of meetings, smaller meetings throughout the week, looking at different plans and answering questions and looking what are our next steps. Additionally, we have the group that we've invited in for our first meeting every month. This would be the Health and Medical Advisory Group, and that brings together our health officials from town, as well as Dr. Clark, whom I mentioned before, local pediatrician, and our nurse leader, Kelly LeBombard. And that group has been crucial, not only in the summer, because we used their expertise to figure out how do we, if we're in person or in a hybrid, work into lunch. How do we do different processes that we've been doing for years, but now we have to change. And this group has been critical and they've been excellent. It's been actually a joy to work with all of them. Leadership team who is on screen, you can't see all of them right now because we have the slideshow up, but they're always exceptional. And I'm not sure that there's a more challenging time in education, or maybe in the nation for that matter, than right now. And so I can't say enough about that group. And certainly if we have questions at the end of this, I'm sure they'd be willing to provide much more information. And then we have a long-range planning group that really started meeting back in April, anticipated some of the challenges that we were going to have moving forward, even back in the spring of 2020. And so this is a group that brings together administrators and the East Longmeadow Education Association representatives, looking at not only where we're going, but also looking at, are there challenges given that we're, in a lot of what we're doing, changing how we do it. And so this group has been incredible at helping us look at these, anticipate challenges, and resolve them. And certainly can't say enough about our whole teaching and staff in general in the LPS, because this is a year where we're almost reinventing everything we do. And as I said at the beginning, all of this information then flows to the school committee. So I've now highlighted them both at the beginning of this and also the end, because ultimately they rely on this information that we're providing to make some really challenging decisions. So,
Gordon, if I could just interrupt you for a second, yeah. The paper on your keyboard, we're getting feedback off of that. Just...
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Thanks.
That's pretty good. How'd you know I had a paper on my keyboard?
Every once in a while it would pop up. I could see it pop up. Like that, yeah.
I'm impressed.
Please continue. Sorry.
Okay, thank you. One of the things that I think is certainly confusing, and certainly as people look to news stories and possible social media posts, it becomes more confusing. But we are working really almost daily with the local East Longmeadow Department of Public Health, and we're looking at local health data specific to East Longmeadow, in addition to what people are seeing in that statewide metric and report that comes out now on Thursdays. And they have been fantastic in helping us understand the local data and sort of anticipating what may happen. Some of the numbers that people have been seeing is that in town, we saw in October an incredible leap in cases. I believe at October 22nd, we were somewhere around 21 cases. And as you can see, last week, the last 14 days, as reported on that Thursday, we had 67 cases. Previous week was 69. Other communities are starting to see this spike. Longmeadow has 30, Ludlow had 58, and Wilbraham had 43. And even though these cases are being reported and the metrics are very public, one of the things that I don't believe people are seeing, and so I wanted to make sure that people are getting the sort of the internal numbers, if you will. Since September 16th, when we began, we've had approximately 23 positive cases between staff and students. So that's a combination or compilation of cases and so those are positive cases, staff and students in that group. That then impacted 93 close contacts. Predominantly, we were able to navigate that because we are in a remote instructional model. In some cases, we did have some situations with a few of our in-person programs and with sports at the high school. But if you start to look around us, and certainly you've seen news stories, there are buildings closing and then opening, classes being shut down. And so this is really the benefit of that August 6th vote. We have not shut down programs, although we've had 23 positive cases. And actually that's an old number because that was Thursday of last week. And I spoke with Ms. Petrowski today, and we have some new numbers. And so anytime that we have a positive that's in person or in an extracurricular, what I do is I notify the entire school community of that building. And certainly, obviously, we have outreach before that with our building nurses and our building administrators working with our local health department. And it's that partnership so far that's been pretty incredible, because we're able to contact and work with families really quickly. And the group called the Contact Tracing Coalition, that is a support group for municipalities, often they're dealing with so many numbers that we're able to step in and contact families and work with them. I think that's a benefit. I'm seeing it as a benefit. I hope our families are seeing it as a benefit because they're hearing from someone who is familiar to them, and questions can be asked. And then once we've made those contacts, I send out a general notification to the entire school community regarding that situation with in-person learning. And so that's something that's been going on. The 23 positive cases and the 93 close contacts, obviously, many of those, most of those have been in situations where they're remote learners. And so it's not a situation where we're quarantining in-person staff or students. Move forward there. Thank you. So as we look at that, those are some of the numbers we're seeing, and we are still looking to try to make the best decision possible for expanding in-person learning. And so we're always going to make sure that our focus, no matter what we're doing in terms of the instructional model, is keeping all within the ELPS community safe. And so when we start to think about this, our transition decision, I believe the school committee has set January 15th as the decision-making date to, December 15th, to do a transition in January. And so it could be something that's in person, it could be hybrid, it could be a remote instructional model, depending on all the information that we're gathering. Families, and I think this was a question, no matter what the decision is, families will always be able to choose a fully remote option. And then if possible, if we see an incredible percentage opting to fully remote, that possibly allows for more in-person learning depending on the school and or grade level. But that's the percentages really are going to dictate whether we move to a hybrid model or to some type of full in-person model. And so we're preparing and working with all those groups. And one of the things that we're doing, and I think this question was also asked, is are we learning from the towns around us? And we are. The 7 districts in the LPVC are pretty close and communicate frequently with each other. I actually have a meeting with all the superintendents in the LPVC tomorrow morning, and we're sharing successes and we're sharing challenges. And so one of the things that we're looking at here in ELPS is how do we increase our capability of doing live stream instruction if we're also having some in-person instruction take place. And the better we can do that, the better all of our models will become. And so we've had some staff members, thankfully, start to volunteer to look at this and look at how they would manage this in their classrooms. And then we're working with that long-range planning group as we get this information to see how do we best support live streaming and make sure our staff is comfortable in dealing and managing the 2 situations, because that is going to be a challenge. And I know someone mentioned that in the public comments. And what we're trying to do is make sure that we're putting the best support in place for our staff, while also making sure that we're providing options for our families. If you want to bump forward one slide. So one of the things, and I think someone asked this as well, that we've been discussing predominantly at the leadership team, but now we've started to branch into the other groups that I talked about in earlier slides, the planning groups, is we had a cohort model where we were thinking originally in the reopening that it might be alphabetically split, an A cohort, a B cohort. That may still be the same. Originally though, if you look at our reopening plan that is still posted on our webpage, we were thinking that we would have the A cohort be in person on Monday and Tuesday. Everybody would be remote on Wednesday, and then the B cohort would be in person on Thursday and Friday. As we continue to look at what's working and where challenges may lie, we started to think that maybe it's better to possibly look at a full week on for A cohort, and then the next week B cohort has a full week on in person. So over that 2-week period, you're picking up at least 1 extra live in-person instructional day. If we're able to provide support and work and manage the live stream, then obviously we're going to be live streaming the lesson to our students who are in their remote week and to our students who are fully remote and have chosen to opt out. So people would be able to continue to have an ELPS teacher managing that. And that's what some of the planning we're working through. And there are a lot of pieces to that. And so it does take time. This model also allows for a little bit more equitable scheduling for students and specials at the elementary level, but there are going to be challenges that are unique to each building as we look at that. We do have obviously some staff that may need to stay remote, and so we're going to have to work through some special scheduling as we look at all of this. And this type of hybrid model also helps us continue to do the type of contact tracing that we've done so far. And that's something new to all of us. I think all the administrators can speak to sort of the time that contact tracing can take sometimes when it props up on, say, a Monday morning. And so we're continuing to become more efficient with that. And so this is where we are right now in our planning. We have a number of meetings scheduled this week with the different groups to continue to move us forward. But wanted to make sure that not only the school committee, but the East Longmeadow families have a chance to hear and see some of this on screen as well as verbally. So I'll pause there. I don't know if there are questions that maybe members of the leadership team and I can answer for you, but certainly we'll give it a shot, do our best.
Beth, you're on mute, Beth.
Sorry about that. I guess I know that whatever plans that you guys put forward are going to be what you feel are best for the students overall, but as a school committee member, and I know that you're going to be giving us updates, I guess I'm getting a little bit, I want to know a lot more about the plans themselves, and that maybe means we need to have an extra meeting to sit down, or a workshop or something like that where we could sit down. I really want to know what's happening, because I currently work in a school system I'm proud to work for, and they're hybrid right now, and I have watched this evolve over the last 8-9 weeks or whatever it's been, and I guess I just don't want that happening. I do not want our students going back and have this constant evolving happening where every week it's going to be a little bit tweaked. This is going to be tweaked. That's going to be tweaked. And I guess if this is something that we're voting on, and I want our kids back in school, I really do. I am 100% on board with that, so long as things don't get super, super bad out there. And I guess so for me, I know you guys are working on it. I know that you'll have some good plans, but before we come down and we vote for this, I really just feel I'd like to see the nitty gritty of it all. And that's what I hope that we can do.
And I think I'll speak just quickly, but other administrators may want to chime in. None of us really enjoy sort of the great wide open and not having the specifics nailed down. And so that's one of the things that we're trying to do as we define the hybrid. What the buildings will do is then look at their schedule and start to make specific choices for how they would run that. And so it's similar to what we've done with the reopening plan, where we submitted, sample schedules. I imagine that we will do that again so that we can make sure that people understand. I think the biggest component to all of this is perfecting and supporting the live streaming so that we're able to keep the connection with our families and students that we already have. We've built that connection. We want to make sure we keep that connection.
Okay.
I don't know if any of the leadership team members want to add to that.
Yeah. Hi, Beth. So I just wanted to mention that, we are also trying to connect with other districts. Renee and I have a visit this week. We're visiting an elementary school in WellBeing because we're a little concerned about Carline and what that's going to look like at Meadowbrook. So I already spoke with the principal today, and we have a meeting set up, and we're trying to reach out as well to other districts that are doing this so we can find out what were their challenges, to be a little bit proactive. And I know that Gordon's reaching out to other superintendents that have been doing this as well. So I don't know if that helps.
No, it does. I guess it's just because I guess I understand. I can almost see how the model's going to work. Some of these models, obviously, with like the middle school, 6 through 12. It's the littles that are just I'm far more difficult to manage in what they need and their continuity and all of that. And I guess that's where I really want to see, you know, what ultimately happens. And I guess I'm just nervous at this point because we're a month away from a vote and we need to make a vote. And I feel like, what do we have, 2 meetings before this happens? And I just guess I just want to absorb as much information as possible. So anything you guys have, even if it's in between meetings, you know, if you can collaborate stuff and send it to us in whatever form. I know we generally are hands off. We really are. We try to make, it's your job. You're the professionals. We're here just to facilitate. But this time around, I just want information. And I guess that's what I'm asking for. As you move along and you evolve in your process, I just want to know what's happening before we get, you know, you'll always answer a question, but I don't want to bother you because you guys have a job to do. But I just want, if you've got good stuff, send it to us so we can see it. That's all.
Okay. And so just to Mrs. Dakin's point there, that's the level of thinking we have to get to.
Right down to the
Carline, reversing the flow in hallways. So it's far different than planning for any school year.
Mhm.
You know, to have one-way hallways, to purchase containers if a room is not outfitted with cubbies so that everybody has an individual space so that their coat, backpack cannot touch other students' coats and backpacks. These are all the things that the administrators have been working on both in the summer, but now we're back at it as we look to make this decision.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Other questions? Oh, looks like Mr. Fredette wanted to say something.
I guess I wanted to jump in a little bit because there might be a little bit of confusion as to why we had a hybrid model that was a Monday, Tuesday, then a Thursday, Friday model with a fully remote Wednesday, and now we're looking at an A week, B week model. So I guess to sort of maybe help out some of the confusion around that, the reason why we started in on that was because, hang on, my son's shuffling a deck of cards. Was because there was a couple of notions being discussed that maybe, you know, we look at a percentage of families that would elect to opt out and then what we're remaining with. And I think that there was a feeling that that was an unknown percentage. And when we're trying to be really concrete about a plan, we didn't like to plan for an unknown. And then there were components of the Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday hybrid model that we also didn't really like too much, because we didn't like that Wednesday. We didn't like that Wednesday that was sort of, we're going to change now to remote, and then we're going to change back to in-person. And then on the teachers, they would have to plan for a remote day, and then they would have to plan for an in-person day. And so that was another moment where we wanted to rethink, now that we had some time because we've been fully remote, to rethink what a return model would look like. The other thing that we liked about the A week, B week was over time, over a 2-week period, if you brought an A cohort in and then a B cohort in, you would get 1 more day of instruction for every student in person. So over 20 days, 20 weeks, let's say, you'd get about 20 more or 20 plus more contact days in person from January to the end of the school year. So because we had more time to process this now and think about it, we thought about, as a leadership team, what return model could we propose that might actually be better than the model we already proposed as a hybrid model way back in August. So we've been starting to think about that together, so we can account for, A, this is great for everybody. If you wanted to opt out, you could still, hoping the live stream components of this new endeavor work out, we can account for all the opt-outs. If you opted out and wanted to eventually come back, we can appropriately space out our classrooms and have a cohort that you could fit back into safely in a spaced environment without sort of cramming in another student into a classroom that may not be able to accommodate that if we just accounted for opt-outs only. And then we also felt like, can we provide more in-person instruction and not have to plan for 2 models every single week over the course of this remainder of the school year? So just to be clear, Beth, I know you into the school committee as to why we started to think about a different type of hybrid model for a return plan.
Oh, thank you, Michael, very much. I guess that's a little bit of the information that I want, because I know that you guys are going to come up with a plan that's going to be great, and I do. I know right now it's you know, I work where it's a half day on Wednesdays. It's remote. You know, the kids contact together as all the cohorts come together. But I also know that, you know, on the hybrid days when the kids are home, half is they're learning with the teacher and the other half is they are exploring on their own and they're doing their own work. And I have some reservations about that because, you know, I think you do lose a lot of time on learning. So this is a good idea. And I like what you guys are thinking. And I like that you're constantly evolving with what you're thinking. So I do appreciate it. Thank you.
The only thing I would add to your question, Beth, is that I do feel way more confident after having watched other districts go hybrid, right? So I can learn in my house. I live with a middle school hybrid principal. So I've seen what you talked about, which is like, it seems like something little is always changing. And that can be tough on my 8th grade daughter who's in a hybrid learning environment. That is tough. It gets super annoying. So I think that we have been able to learn from these other districts, and like what Michael and Gordon just described is one of the iterations of what we see now as better. And I think there's 10 other things that are better in terms of how to get kids into the CAF, in terms of how to deal with lockers. There's all that. But I also think that no matter what we do, there's gonna be minor pivots once we get going. So to think that we're gonna get it perfectly right on January 15th and not need to make a change on February 5th is, I think we'll be better suited because we've watched and learned, but I still think there's going to be a lot of little changes here and there to make a better experience.
And just to piggyback on that, one of the things that certainly can become disruptive, if our numbers were to stay the same as the numbers that I presented, you know, from September 16th until Thursday of last week, you will see disruption. You will see, as other schools have done, unfortunately, is you're going to be quarantining staff and students. And one of the biggest challenges, and I don't know that anybody said it here, but I'll say it for them, is that you run out of personnel. Because if you're trying to have someone cover an in-person class, but you've quarantined a number of those classes, you run out of people to meet with the remaining in-person students. And we've had area high schools and other schools that have had to shut down for a little bit and go remote. And so to Dr. Allen's point, I think people will need to prepare for that. I know that our staff is prepared for that because we've done and are doing a very robust remote program. But that is something that's consistent in all of these planning meetings, is how do we cover this if we have X happen? And that's something that we're also seeing play out as we look at area schools around us.
And I know everybody that I'm looking at understands this, but like the other big change is going to be that like there might be the perception that what happens to the kids who are learning remotely is exactly what's happening right now. But it's not that, because although it's live streaming, right now they are focused on all the faces in front of them. And as soon as you're doing the faces in front of you and the faces physically in front of you, it's different. So not saying that that's a reason to not do it. I'm just saying it does, we're going to get really good at live streaming. Our staff is equipped to do it. They'll do it better than anybody, frankly, but it's still going to be a different experience at home than it's been, because you're not going to have an immediate response from the teacher.
And I would just second what Gordon just said. Staffing is a huge concern, probably one of my biggest concerns right now. And speaking with all of the other administrators that are here in the room, I know we're all facing a very similar challenge in that we're getting very limited applicants for positions that are being posted. And that's not simply replacement positions, but even just something as simple as substitutes. What was once a very robust list of amazing substitute teachers. We are so blessed to have a lot of retired educators and various folks in the field on our list for substitutes are no longer comfortable filling in for teachers right now, to the point where our list has been whittled down to probably maybe a tenth of what it was. And we've had a posting out there for a month to which we've had one applicant. So that is a very real challenge that we all need to consider when we're moving into this.
Thank you, Renee.
Okay. Does anybody have any other questions or comments on the subject? Being none, thank you all of our leadership team. Thank you for all your help and efforts in this. And Frank, did you have one thing on to
Yeah,
say?
if you guys are good with that, I can just talk quickly about the AP tests.
Oh, sure. Go ahead.
Are we done with the other topic? Is that okay to talk about now?
Yep, go ahead.
Yes. Are you okay if I share the screen?
Yep.
All right, give me one sec here. Hold on. Just make sure I get the right tab. So just for the parent who was asking about the AP exams for this year and our students being prepared, the College Board has a great website that all of our staff have access to, and they've designed specific reports, specific supports to prepare the kids for this year's AP exams. You know, they have things specific to every single class. They have overviews of what the exams are going to look like. They have this great tool called the AP Classroom that all of our teachers can create logins for the students for, where they can take practice tests, they can watch tutorials, they have different AP resources. And if you scroll down, you can even see here that they have AP resources for teachers who are in a in-person model, teachers who might be in a hybrid model, and even teachers who might be fully remote. So there's a ton of this information that's out there that's available right through the AP College Board, and all of our teachers have access, and they're utilizing this on a regular basis. Some of them right now are just using it as a resource for them to teach, but others are already giving their kids logins and have already created their AP classroom so their kids can start preparing for the exams. So, and I will say I have no problem just making sure that this information gets shared out with the ELHS community as well, for parents who might not know this is there.
Thank you, Frank. I do get some emails from AP about different things, and I have seen that. I just want to make sure that you think they're pretty solid on their path of what's going to be happening with the tests come the spring.
No, definitely, definitely.
All right, thank you.
And I just want to add, I really appreciate the level of detail and thought that you're bringing to the conversation. I think your voices have been one that we haven't heard yet in this comprehensive of a fashion. And I think that as we hear the complexities that are involved, we also hear the thoughtfulness by which you're making considerations for how to ensure that the plans for both hybrid and full in-person are made in such a way that they can be actualized. So I think that that's really important for us as a committee, but also for the members of our schools and our families to really be taking into consideration. And I think that based on those complexities, it's really important to note that we were able to lift one model and lift that model really well, and then very quickly pivot to the forward planning that this committee asked you to do. So once you had your building settled, we wouldn't be at this point in this conversation if you all hadn't made those decisions to start to plan and forward think based on the requests that were made. So I appreciate that, and I appreciate your level of commitment to ensuring that we get our students back in the safest and most appropriate fashion. So thank you for that.
Okay. Anyone else this evening on this subject? Okay, again, to our leadership team, thank you so very much for your time and your efforts in this, and we'll all work together to continue to move forward. So thank you again for your efforts.
And
have a good night.
Thank
Thanks,
you very
everybody.
much.
Thank
Okay,
you.
good night.
Take care.
Night, everyone.
Greg and Gordon, do you want me to stay to speak on Maple Shade's behalf for the vacancy for the long-term sub for the in-person programming?
It's sure. You can, Michael. I mean, we discussed it in executive session already.
Oh, okay.
So
All
we're
right.
up to speed on it.
No problem.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you though for offering. Appreciate it.
No problem. Have a great night.
Okay. Yeah, you too.
Take care.
Okay, with that then, we're going to continue to move forward. So just to reiterate to the committee, we will continue to bring information for the various groups. We'll plan again to have our health experts the next committee meeting. Certainly have our administrators back again as we get closer to our decision and our plans are more solidified. Okay.
Sounds good.
Okay, so with that, we're going to move forward with a gift donation from Opile Prince.
Yes, that's right. So in your package, you'll see a request from Mr. Page, the high school principal, for the school committee to accept the quarterly royalty check in the amount of $193.02 from Opile Prince, which is from royalties based on the sale of spiritware from in our school name at our local retailers. So we'd like to thank everyone out there for purchasing that.
Okay, do I have a motion to accept?
I move to accept the check for $193.02 from Opile Prince Incorporated for royalties based on the sale of spiritware around town. Or local retailers.
Motion has been made by Beth. Second by Antonella, even though she's on mute. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, nay. That motion carries 5-0. Thank you.
Great, we'll get that deposited. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Pam.
You're welcome.
All right, we have the MOU we discussed in executive session. Do I have a motion to approve the extracurriculum activity stipend MOU?
Move to approve the MOU ELHS extracurricular activity stipend.
I will second that.
Motion made by Bill, seconded by Beth. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay.
Nay.
That motion carries 4-1. Thank you. And then we have the other topic we discussed in executive session. That would be the waiver of policy GCGA/R.
Move to approve the waiver of policy GCGA-R.
And we can make that as we did in executive bill relative to the intensive need teacher at Maple Shade.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Motion made by Bill.
I will second.
Second by Beth. Discussion. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, nay. That carries 5-0 as well. Okay. Surprisingly, we have reached the end of our meeting. Again, we'll continue with our updates as we move forward. We, as Gordon alluded to, we do have several meetings with some of those other groups discussed, and we'll keep moving forward together. So thank you all for your time tonight. And with that, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion made by Bill.
Second.
Second by Antonella. Discussion. Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. That motion carries 5-0. We are adjourned. Thank you and good evening.
Thank you.